Hello. We would love to welcome you to the COP28 live updates and, of course, all the wonderful interviews. We have some really fantastic information we would love to share with you today, and a really excellent guest, and some other guests will be joining us a bit later on. Today, we have Charles Appleby, of course, the founder and wonderful gentleman who runs Saving Our Planet and, of course, various other environment-related organizations. And myself, Hani Kalaria, here today from the Rotary. Of course, Rotary is an international organization, but I'm the district chair for the Environment Committee in London. So we'd first of all like to welcome Charles. Charles, please tell us, what has it been like so far since we've been doing these programs for the last few days for you?
Ooh, good day to you, Honey. Good day to you, Honey. I was going to say good morning, but everyone's in different time zones. So let's say a good day to you and big welcome to Marion joining us today. Well, what it's been like for me, Honey. So as you know, for me, what is really, really important with this particular COP is that the world gets a commitment to achieving 1.5 degrees. Keeping it in reach is the phrase that the Sultan has used. Okay, so let's all think about what we've heard on the news, on our news channels, with the websites we've been visiting. So what do people think?
Just wanted to do a quick little recap there, Charles, just for the last few days for our viewers out there, so you understand. And of course, hopefully you'll be tuning into the rest of the week as well to find out more about all these fantastic topics. So far we've been having guests ranging from all sorts, talking about legal policies and how we can bring environmental policies and legal frameworks in place to protect our planet. We also talked about how to bring education to the forefront. How do we get community members trained about the climate? And of course, we also talked about various things like how do we use PR and media platforms to bring out these wonderful messages to the world. So today, of course, we will have another topic we'll be discussing, and that's with Marin Shevnyat. Am I saying that right, dear Marin?
Hi, thanks, Honey, thanks, Charles. Almost. It's a very pernicious French family name, so it's not easy to pronounce, right? But you almost had it.
Please teach us. How do we say it? Shavuot?
Shaveria.
God, I'll have to do this one next time. I'll stick to the Marin for the time being. But Marin, I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining us here today. And Charles will be shortly joining and asking a few questions, of course. But Marin, I'd really like to find out a little bit about yourself. Just a quick little summary about what do you do and what is your work within the field of the environment?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Marin Chaveria. I'm a French. I was a student and now I work with an NGO. It's called Citizens Climate Lobby. Basically, I'm the president of Citizens Climate Lobby France. Citizens Climate Lobby is a worldwide network of citizen lobbyists, and it's present in 50 countries. And yeah, I'm the president from CCL France. And basically, what we focus on the environmental theme is climate and more specifically carbon pricing.
That's really good. Can you share the organization name again and maybe just share the website with us so that if people want to find out more about the work you do?
Yeah, sure. It's called, in 3 words, Citizens Climate Lobby.
Very nice. Citizens Climate Lobby. This is fantastic. And you said there's 50 countries that are joined and are part of these members of this particular organization. This is fantastic. Really great work. Charles, do you have some questions that you'd like to ask? Because I know you're raring to go there.
Yeah, so the Citizens Climate Lobby, I'm familiar with your organization. Just give us an overview, please, Marin, about how it's going. This idea of the climate income for everyone. I mean, as I understand it, with the Citizens Climate Lobby approach, everyone in the whole country would get an income depending upon their fuel fuel usage. Can you tell us a bit about how this is actually working somewhere, please?
Sure, with pleasure. So the basic idea behind what we ask for when we lobby, when we do citizen lobby is, as you said, climate income. So there is two parts of it. There is the carbon price and the climate income. Carbon price is basically an economic measure. It's supposed to raise the price with a carbon tax, to raise the price of fossil fuels progressively year after year. And almost all the economists and a lot of experts, there is a huge consensus that carbon pricing is needed for climate mitigation and to reach the Paris Agreement. It's in the latest IPCC report. It says carbon pricing is effective and carbon pricing is needed to reach the Paris Agreement. So basically, there is no question on this one. And the second aspect of what we advocate for is climate income. So let's say once the government has put a price on carbon to reduce emissions, the problem is it raises the price of fossil fuels. And then everyday people, when they have to fill up their tanks and when they have to heat their homes, it becomes progressively more expensive. So the easy solution to this is the government just giving back the money to the people. It's very simple to operate, and it even gives more money because they are the ones who consume the less fossil fuel. So basically, it's a transparent and equitable climate policy, very easy to implement.
Right. And can I ask a question there, please, Marin? You mentioned this is fantastic because, of course, we would be perhaps, let's say it's like a tax, right? So the more people who use the actual carbon tax, it's like a carbon tax. But what I'd like to know is, do you feel that even though we're trying to mitigate and we're giving the income back to the people and the communities, how is it actually going to help our planet? Because would it not be that we need to completely try to mitigate some of these areas are very, very serious? Because we are in 100 years, we have destroyed the planet in such a way, all the resources are being just dried out, from our Mother Earth. How do we replenish and how do we nourish and how do we keep up with this? Because although we're trying to stop and just give the money back to the communities, we have to still think about Mother Earth. How do you think this could help?
Thanks for this question, honey. You really pinpointed the important thing. So the carbon tax is a tax, so it's supposed to raise money, but before all, it's a tax on carbon emissions. So there is an economic incentive not to have carbon emissions. And basically how it works is it gives the upper hand to companies and behaviors and decisions that are low carbon and green. So the environment and we pollute the climate because it is free to pollute. And when there is a company who is trying to make some effort not to pollute, most of the time it's more expensive for them.
Yes.
Okay, so I've got a question, if I may. So Marin,
yeah, sure.
So Marin, you've given a very, very clear explanation about the two components, the carbon pricing, which is needed in order to reduce consumption, and secondly, the carbon income, which gives a real benefit to people who are low users of fossil fuels, because they'll actually make more money. They'll make more money out of this. Okay, so it sounds really good. So would you like to give us an example, please, of a country which has implemented this, where it's working? Can you tell us a bit about somewhere where it's actually working?
Yeah, sure. So it's actually implemented in Canada.
Okay.
Since 2019. It's also implemented in Switzerland. There is half of the revenues which is given back to the people. And it's in place in Austria, a European country, since last year. And Germany, the German government is looking to implement it as well.
Okay, so tell us a bit, please, about, you come from Switzerland. So tell us a bit about how it's working in Switzerland, because this is, I think a lot of people in Europe would be interested in this. Tell us a bit about how it's happening actually in Switzerland, please.
Yeah, right. So in Switzerland, there is a carbon fee which is applied on fossil fuels. This is the carbon pricing part. And then there is around half of the revenues which are given back to the households. And there is about 1/3 of the revenues which are given back to companies. And there is the rest which is used in green investments or things like this. So in Switzerland, it's not 100% of the revenues, it's just half which is given back.
Okay, so for a consumer, from the consumer point of view, what is the consumer going to see as a difference then? The ordinary average consumer, what are they going to see different if for someone in Switzerland?
Different from, sorry, I don't really get
No, but so basically, how much money for someone in Switzerland who's an average fossil fuel user, are they going to get some income back from this system? Or yeah?
Yeah, right. It's about, I think in Switzerland, it's around €100 per person per year, which is low. But it is technically, it is what is paid with the carbon fee. So if the climate income is low, it is because you received you paid a low carbon fee. And basically there is the carbon pricing, which is, I don't have the word in English.
Okay. Maybe the word is it progressive?
Spanish. Say it in Spanish so everybody else understands it. Once we speak in Spanish.
Do you mean the carbon tax is progressive, that it increases each year? Is the idea that the carbon tax will increase as a percentage each year?
Yeah, the carbon tax progressively increase each year. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So in 5 or 10 years' time, is the aim that instead of an income of about €100 a year, is the idea that people will have a much higher income than that, or stay the same?
That's a good question. There is two things to consider when we look forward to the future. First, the income is supposed to raise because as the carbon pricing goes up, there is more and more income, so you can the climate income raise also. But as the carbon pricing goes up, the emissions go down because the price is going up and people and companies are moving away from fossil fuels. So basically, the US did some projections on what will happen. So at the beginning, the climate income is low because the carbon price is low. Then in 2040, the climate income is high, it's very high, it's at the top because the price is high and the emissions are still not zero. And at 2050, the emissions are supposed to be at zero. The carbon price is very high, but the emissions are supposed to be very low. So the climate income goes down again. So it goes like, a bell curve.
Okay. So, Marin,
Sorry, we've just lost Charles there. So Marin, as Charles comes back from the technical side, you mentioned about the 50 countries that are on board, and you must have many members who are, of course, joined your citizens' climate lobby. What are the kind of things that you normally lobby about, and what are the kind of the most pressing discussions that are going on within your group and within your organization?
So
environment, of course.
So it's called we do meet our government representative to ask for a policy. Basically, in the NGO, we are focused on climate, and since we can only advocate for one policy at a time, it's a choice to be focused on just one policy at a time. It's already a big piece of work, just one. So, and we decided to choose what we consider to be the most effective policy, which is carbon pricing with climate income. So as far as I know, in most, if not all of the 50 countries we are in, we advocate all for carbon pricing and climate income. Some countries may advocate for one or two more things, but I'm not 100% sure. You know, I'm just the part of CCL France, so I'm very up to date about anything in France.
Yes, that's really lovely to even find out more about what France is doing, because it's part of this. But you're saying this is a particular area which is the most is a pressing issue. Now, when we look at the plan, what made you want to get involved? Because you're a part of the environment organization. What is it in yourself as a person? Why do you think community members around the world should be also considering getting involved in environment-related issues, supporting or taking action, or even running organizations which would support our planet? What made you want to get involved in the environment area?
I think in the first place, I have a master degree in ecology and environmental science. So I was not involved. It was not activism, but it was the thing I studied. So I was really sensitive about this. I learned about all the things that were problematic at the time, like climate change and the biodiversity crisis and all this. And I was just thinking, like, this is a problem to solve. It's going to impact a lot of people. It's going to impact people in an unfair way, even. Like, people coming from the global south are going to be more impacted than people from the global north. And, you know, I just saw a problem and I was thinking, oh, maybe we should try things again. And I just went in. Like a lot of people, I think.
No, that is really nice, because I just wanted to, perhaps whilst we're talking about this, share this with our audiences out there, because it really requires every single person to come on board, to take a little action. If we all come together collectively and unite to make these changes, then we can have an impact very quickly. It's just we really need to perhaps persuade, encourage, inspire, and educate other members of the world, of our societies, of different communities, why this is so important, what is actually going to happen if we don't take action, and also, you know, how their action is creating the impact and helping towards the good cause. So yeah, I just wanted to highlight that. So if you're listening right now, please do keep sharing this information across with your wonderful, I would say, friends, families, contacts, members, etc., because it's a very, very crucial area, and we only have one planet, which we cannot replace. So please, Charles, did you have any particular questions you'd like to cover?
I think just on that theme, Marion, I think it'd be very helpful if you could please put in the chat and send to Honey details of your organization and any information about the more information about Citizens Climate Lobby and climate income. And what's your message? So what do you, if people are in France, what do you want people to do? And so, for example, Honey and myself are based in the UK. So if people are based in the UK or other countries, what would you like them to do to support what you're doing with Citizens Climate Lobby?
All right, thanks, Charles. So just before answering your question, I just wanted to share one piece of information that could be really fun for all Rotary members. In fact, the founder of Citizens Climate Lobby, the NGO I am part of, was a Rotary member. He was, he joined I checked it out. He joined the Rotary Club of Colorado, California in 1985. And this is where he discovered an NGO called Results, which is also a citizen lobby called Results. And then he was part of the Rotary Club, and then a lot of the philosophy of the Rotary Club and the principles helped him how to shape citizens' climate lobby and the vision and how should we approach government people when we try to meet with them. So
that's amazing.
yeah,
That's really, that's wonderful. And it's also interesting to know, because I believe that, of course, Rotary has been involved in helping to serve the world in many ways. And there are 7 areas of focus that we work within. And the 7th area of focus, which is the environment, is the most recent one added to the 6 that were there previously, because even Rotary understood the real importance and urgency of adding this particular area to the Rotary work that we're doing at the moment. So thank you for sharing that, Maureen. And it's wonderful and very inspirational to know that our fellow Rotarians are doing some great work and launching some wonderful initiatives, which is now leading to 50 countries coming together to lobby and create powerful change. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So if we may, Marion, just coming back to what would you like people to do in France and also in the UK? Thank you.
Yes, thanks. So the name of the founder was Marshall Sanders. What I would like to do, what I would love to do, I think, is for people who are interested in the climate and in the climate crisis, there is the carbon pricing, which is really underlined. This is a policy that is stressed upon by the World Bank, by the IMF, by the OECD, by the IPCC also. They all say carbon pricing is necessary, it is important. And but in the NGO world with climate, most of the time it's not talked about, even though it's a very important policy. So I would invite every Rotary members to get in contact with the chapter, with the Citizens Climate Lobby chapter in their country, and to try to organize just a joint meeting so they can have a presentation on carbon pricing, climate income, how it helps reduce emissions and protect the climate, how it is equitable, fair, and efficient. And yeah, this is one of the things we do at Citizens Climate Lobby. We give presentations on the policy and how we operate. So it will be, I think it will be a lovely occasion to meet members of the Rotary clubs and to merge 2 worlds that have, I think, a lot of things in common.
That's a really wonderful question, actually. Yeah, this is really wonderful for people to come on board. You talk about the climate side of things quite a lot, but, you know, the working within the environment and protecting our planet involves many areas as well. There are other areas that we should be considering. So there are some people who prefer, you know, who like to support the wildlife, or somebody who prefers to protect, you know, endangered species, because biodiversity, let's say reforestation projects, all that affects, and everything we do in our world affects each other. So as soon as we kill all the fishes, suddenly the other big fishes haven't got food, or, you know, like it just has a knock-on effect, everything. So from what you can see with all the various different areas, for you, what do you think are the 3 most important areas that the world should be focusing on, according to you, from your point of view?
Environmental areas or general areas?
General, protecting the planet. It could be the environment. Of course, it's the climate. Maybe 3 of the most important areas for you, because you mentioned you've done environmental science as well. You've studied, and that is really amazing. I wanted to ask you a question on that. I'll ask you that a little later. But what are the 3 most important things do you think we need to focus on as communities coming together?
That's a good question. I think, so I will answer on environmental areas because this is what I studied. So what I studied. So yeah, I think climate, of course, is really important. The second one is the biodiversity crisis. As you said, when there is no more fish, it's not a good thing. So yeah, it's to me, it's as important. It's really important also. And the third one on the environment, I think will be nature restoration, like avoiding the biodiversity crisis, like to stop destroying it in one way, and then the other way will be like to restore it, because like 20, it looks like a long time, but in biology it's not a long time. Like 20,000 years ago and 100,000 years ago, there was a lot of animals roaming the earth that were killed by and going extinct by primitive humans. So this is kind of sad on when we think about like a species going extinct. It's really, really sad. So avoiding the biodiversity crisis is one thing, and also letting space for nature to thrive is also one important thing, I think.
That's so beautiful. I think that is wonderful. Fantastic answer. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Marion. Before I ask Charles to perhaps ask you another question, I just had that one question about your education side. You studied environmental science, and we perhaps may need many more students to consider, potential students to consider studying this particular topic. Because the more people and officials and officers come on board who are on higher, I would say, positions and working in various roles in different companies, it would be really, really helpful to have them educated and knowledgeable in this field, because they make better decisions. They'll be able to educate others in a better way. So why would you say, first of all, what is really important about studying environmental science? And why do you think other people, students out there, should consider studying that particular topic and subject?
I would say you should study what you love first and all. Like, if I went into environmental science because this is what I had an interest in, so I just followed this interest. I think this, like, as a general advice, go and study what you love. But I think what is really, really important, and especially for environmental science, because there is environmental problems now, is to try and communicate, as you said, to try and communicate to politicians, to the civil society, to all the members of society, because most, at least in France, but most of the scientists, they don't really communicate. Like, they are working on the computers, they are inside their, a little bit inside their world, and they have a hard time communicating the results to the general public. There is some scientists who are doing a great job in France at communicating. I think about Valérie Masson-Delmotte and others, climate scientists. And this is really important for scientists to take the mic and to know how to communicate things simply and clearly.
That is really nice. So to just summarize that bit just for our audiences, perhaps, for them to consider, even if they're lawyers, they could consider perhaps specializing in environment law, or we could have, let's say, police, like the legal platforms, like police, seeing people throwing litter and saying, okay, why you shouldn't be throwing litter around, and keeping your even your communities clean, for example. Again, that's environment related. And we can have the rivers and people working in the boats and things like that. That you don't have to have somebody who just has to work on an environmental position, but we're talking about every single profession in the world could have the environment connected to them, like teachers teaching students about the environment. So if they are a little bit more educated in this field, there will be a lot more society, because they're the ones who are passing on the knowledge to wider communities. So this is really, really great. Thank you so much. What a wonderful answer you have shared with us. And I love the bit about do what you love doing. And also, if you are an environment lover, a Mother Earth lover, a spiritual person who enjoys protecting the earth, again, these could be some of the subjects you should consider. that you'll be able to find out more about the area of interest for you. So, Charles, what are some questions that you may have for Marin, and also how can we interrogate him further?
Okay, so thank you, Marin. You've given some really wonderful, inspiring answers here, which I'm sure people will really appreciate. What I'd just like to ask you, we're on day 5 of COP now. So a really, really important issue for me, my top issue is really how to actually cut the use of fossil fuels. Now, what we've had so far, we've had some announcements that have been quite positive, but what's the discussion there, and what's the feeling there, Marin, about really on this central issue of cutting fossil fuels? What's the discussion there about what is actually happening? What are you seeing happening on the ground in terms of that discussion?
Right. I'm afraid this answer won't be as satisfying as you may expect. Because the negotiations that are happening in COP between countries, basically this is COP 28, which means it has been going on since 28 years. And this is like international legal text, and this is really complicated to follow and to understand the exact scope of the negotiations. There is some synthesis out there, but there is the director of Citizens Climate International, Joseph Robertson. He's the one who is studying everything that is happening at COPs and in international negotiations. So unfortunately, I cannot really answer precisely about what just happened, today or 1 day ago or 2 days ago. I know there is some new treaties, some new initiatives that are taking place, but I guess to have like a good, short, interesting synthesis of what's happening, we will have to wait for Joseph Robertson to publish his synthesis in a few days.
Okay, well, not everything is good news. Not everything's good news, Marin. We have to be realistic, yeah? So for me, this is really what I expected, that because not enough is happening, we still have another 7 or 8 days of COP left. And for me, it's so important that everyone who's interested in the subject makes their representations through their influences to the politicians to say, look, not enough is happening. I mean, it's very simple. We need 1.5 degrees to be kept within reach. This is the objective that the Sultan has given, the head of COP has given this objective. And so, as a citizen, my question to them and to everyone is to say, look, what are you doing about it? What's happening about it? And what I see, what you've told us, what I see from the press is that just not enough is happening. We really need to see numbers of emissions, the use of oil, gas, and coal to be cut. We need to see a 5%, 10% cut over a period of years by all coal producers, all countries of users of this. This is so. Honey, what's your impression from the visitors we've had, the guests we've had so far? What's your impression about what's happening and what needs to be done about it? What's the discussion in Rotary about this?
Well, first of all, COP28 is one of the most important kinds of events that we should be holding, and we should be holding many more of these conferences around the world, I believe, because there needs to be more dialogue, there needs to be more communication, there needs to be more collaboration. There also needs to be more education, because the more the media covers stories about the environment, the more, of course, the society and the regular audience members and regular communities can find out more about what's really going on out there within the climate. We all live in our own little worlds. So everybody has your 9-to-5 jobs, you come home, there's so much going on in our own families. You don't really have time to think about the world. You've got time to, you want to put food on the table for your kids. you want to work, you want to maybe get promoted in your career, whatever it is that your own goals are. There isn't much time to think about, oh, do I have time to think about all these Mother Earth things and protecting the planet? I'm not going to be here in the next 10, 50 years or so, whatever the thoughts are. But I think events like COP28 brings to attention the fact that each one of us are actually responsible for looking after our Mother Earth, because it's the only planet we have, as I mentioned. And if we don't take action collectively, and only a tiny percentage, I mean, think about it, we are going to be over 8 billion people in the world, coming up to 9 billion in 2050, I believe. And can you imagine?
More in 2050,
the way things are going, yes. So think about this. Think about the amount of resources we will require from our Mother Earth, how much we'll be extracting out, and how much our greed is, just to want more, when we could reuse, recycle, think about using maybe a little bit more expensive things, but being able to protect the planet. So I feel this COP28 is a very, very important platform for speakers like Marine to come on board, other wonderful people who are doing work in the industry, to be able to perhaps amplify their messages to the world. That's what my thoughts are on the COP28.
Okay, honey, that's just so amazing. It made me think that yesterday I was speaking to a very wonderful person, a very spiritual person, and I was trying to persuade them to come and join us to speak. Okay, now they've got to speak to their management, etc., and I'm going to follow up with them. But when I was explaining about COP28 to them, what it made me realize is that the centerpiece, of course, is about stopping climate change, stopping global warming. But the implications of that affect everybody. I mean, if this doesn't work out, there'll be more poor people. More people will be pushed into poverty across the world. People living on low-lying lands will lose their homes because of sea level rise, and people will lose their livelihoods because of fires, because of heat. People will be unable to go outside in many countries to farm. People won't be able to work to do what's necessary for farming. And there'll be so many more climate refugees. I mean, Europe at the moment is just completely unable to deal with the refugees that we have from what's already happened. But, in the future, going forward, people turning up at the doors of Europe saying, look, I can't live in my country. It's not possible. It's too hot to live in my country. What's the world going to do? And so that my point I'm making is that it's not just about climate change. It's about all these social issues. It's about all these very, very important political issues. And that's what I want this wonderful person to speak about. So, honey, you had on the first day, you had some lovely people talking about faith-based answers and religious-based answers to things. And it just made me think, well, just how important all of this is. It's not just the climate science. It's not just the carbon tax, which Marion was talking about. And it's so important. The carbon tax is so critically important. It's not just that, it's also about the impact on society and faith and values and all the rest of it. So back over to you, honey.
Charles, it's also about making it fair, because I find there are countries who are working to destroy the world, and there are poorer countries around the world who are actually having to be at the receiving end and ending up having all the problems being passed on to that. So, for example, if there are weather changes, etc., it's one country that's doing everything, whereas it's another country somewhere else who are actually experiencing the hurricanes and flooding and other issues. So we need to think about the fact that, we are all so interrelated. And all those people who are, we're talking about the taxes and the climate taxes, and I don't know what Marine thinks about this one, because here we are. I really admire Canada, Switzerland, Australia, Germany, who are going to be perhaps coming on board very soon, that Marine talked about, that they've at least taken the steps forward to become the ones initiating the ideas and implementing the action. But how do we start encouraging other countries who are actually I would say having the negative impact on other parts of the world, are creating the negative impact in other parts of the world? How do we share these messages with them? How do we educate them? And how do we encourage change in them What do you think, Maureen? Oh, sorry, you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry, it was me. That's a good question. First of all, I would just like to precise that Canada, Austria, Switzerland, and maybe Germany are the countries who implemented climate income, which is the second part of the policy where you give back the money to the people. In fact, carbon pricing is already in place in more than 70 countries in the world, so about 1/3. So it's already a common policy. It's growing year after year. More and more countries are implementing a carbon price to reduce the use of fossil fuels and to mitigate climate change. So it doesn't have a tremendous impact on the world. So already a lot of countries are implementing this solution for climate change.
Right. But I also think sometimes, Maureen, that, like, for example, we have mining industries out there, who are working within the fields of fossil fuels, let's say. And you have various different industries. Now we've got all these jobs, thousands and thousands of jobs that are out there. We have to balance everything, don't we? I mean, I would, of course, like to be pro-environment and protect the planet and things like that. But this is just to be fair on some of the difficult questions and difficult decisions that policymakers and leaders have to come to. It's like, oh, we may have to lose the 50,000 jobs here to stop this particular work. We need to retrain, re-educate all these people because they've been working in this for the last 20 years. So we need to, I'm saying that there are many, many issues in society, and this is why it's important for us to come together collectively to help each other, because these extra challenges will come up while we're trying to help to protect the planet, but we all need to be open to finding solutions on helping all the different areas that are connected to it. I just thought I'd bring that. Yes.
Yeah. So, Honey, I'd like to come in here, but just on the carbon pricing thing that that Marin mentioned, I'd like to come back to you in a minute if you'd like to possibly talk about the EU Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, CBAM, if you'd like to talk about that, because that's very, very important to a lot of the world. But first of all, Honey, let me just come back to you on this question that you've raised, this critically important question of fairness. So, I mean, for me, it's so important. So for me, you raised the question of jobs. Now, for me, there's going to be, if we go ahead with the greening of the world that we talk about, there will be so many jobs to make all the changes needed. But in terms of actually doing that, this question of fairness that you raise, for me, it's a question of oneness, right? It's oneness. Are we one world? Are we one people? Differentiated by country and all sorts of these other religion and all sorts of these other things? Are we one world working together, or are we a world of me, vested interests and greed? Because one person's greed is another person's poverty. And I think it's so important that we work together. So for me, one of my really top priorities for this COP, and the Sultan mentioned it in his introduction, his written introduction he did, is change of paradigms. But what are we seeing happening here? I'm not so sure so far we're seeing much happening, but it's this question of oneness. What are people willing to give in terms of negotiation? Are we just about greed, having everyone having things for themselves, me, or are we really about sharing the world, being fair to those people at the moment who are very disadvantaged and who are going to be much, much more disadvantaged? So, Honey, in terms of, this is a big question for Rotary and your values across all of your 7 value chains. So how do you see, Honey, how do you see what's happening here at COP28 on climate? How do you see this impacting your other amazing 6 value chains that you have, Honey?
Yeah, that's a really great question. Thank you, Charles. I think that having platforms like this COP28 allows people to network. You see, without communication, networking, making new contacts, we cannot expand what we are trying to do. So if you're looking to work on a project, which, for example, an example we would give is women in some of the villages. So there was an example where they would cut wood the trees and bring the wood, because they have to cook food for the children. I mean, now what we have done is we've donated little stoves. These are solar stoves, little baby stoves, which are heated, and I would say brings in the energy from the solar system. And what it does is it heats up and cooks the food. So now the mothers do not have to go out there cutting wood to try to feed their children. So Rotary comes on board. It's not about just helping the environment, but they have various other areas that are also benefiting. So here women would be benefiting, and villages will be benefiting, and also the environment would also benefit. So we find ways of how do we maximize on the impact on all the different areas, all the 7 areas. And tomorrow I'll be sharing a little bit more about the 7 areas of focus, so that if there were other people who are looking to add the environment in their particular work, such as poverty elimination, or the other project is, of course, the Eden Reforestation Project. And Charles, you know that particular project very well. It's not just about planting trees there and reforesting. It's about providing work to the local indigenous community members, so they can be paid for the work of looking after the trees, planting the trees, looking after them. It takes about 15 years for these trees to grow and into mature trees. So you can give work to local communities, which then allows their children to have education. And you see that again, it's all connecting to each other. It's not just about protecting the environment. So Rotary works on areas where we help many of the facets of the community in one go. So that's what I would say. And I hope that more Rotary members will also take the initiative, because some Rotarians are there as members that may not know how to help, may not know, how do I get involved? What should I be doing within the field of environment? And as it's a new subject and it's a new topic, we would like to encourage more Rotarians to find out more and get involved in their local clubs in this particular field. So Charles, that's brilliant. Actually, we're coming down to the last 10 minutes of our program. So Charles and Maureen, perhaps we can share some of our final thoughts and final messages with our audiences. Maureen, is there anything in particular you would like to share, without us asking you a question, perhaps anything that you feel you have a burning desire to share with the world?
Yes, thanks. I would like to I don't have the word in English. I would like to add on what you've just said about COP28. As you said, it is also an occasion to network and to meet people. And there is a lot of good things happening on the side. There is like the negotiation room where all the presidents and the negotiators, they come in and they talk about what law, what international law they want, everything. And on the side, there is also it's called the blue zone, and there is every country has a little bâtiment, I don't know. Every country has
it's a booth.
A little pavilion, a little region,
pavilion, exactly. And there is a lot of side meetings happening where very good projects for the people, for the environment, are looking for funders. There are a lot of deals that are happening, and it's really a good thing. It's an accelerator for good change, positive change, and it's quite magical to see that. And there is a lot of nationalities meeting. It's quite wonderful.
Yes, and of course, this is what you just mentioned. You've got the heads of all the countries also attending. We have King Charles, of course, attending. We have Narendra Modi, Prime Minister of India, and we have so many, real very important heads of the states attending these COP28 and other events like these. So I think it's really a fantastic place for people to meet, to communicate, and really to see if we can come across some really good conclusions and good recommendations, which we can all sign, so that there is some kind of responsibility as well, personal responsibility, country responsibility, so that's the only way we will be able to move forward. If you can imagine, the way I imagine the Earth is every part of the earth, every country, etc. If we can think that one's the lungs and one's the, I don't know, the kidney, and one is the heart and one is the arm, it has to work together for the human body to work together. In the same way, if we can see Mother Earth also being looked after this way, then it will work together. So that's my message to all the countries out there that do come on board and join forces and be part of this movement, because we only have one Earth, as my message would always be. And so Charles, yes.
I'd like to respond to what you said about the trees. So planting trees, my organization is involved with planting trees. We work with Honey and Rotary and other organizations to plant trees. I've put in the chat for £1, we'll plant 6 trees. And for every 100 trees, the work of planting those trees creates a day of paid work for people in extreme poverty. So please do donate through Honey and Rotary for this. For people in the UK, gift aid is available. There may well be tax incentives as well for Rotary in other countries to increase the value of your donation. But this is so critically important. The world now has about 3 trillion trees, but used to have 6 trillion trees. So really important as part of this restoration of the world that we talked about is to plant another 1 trillion trees. Now, you can get your calculators out if you like. 1 trillion trees divided by 100 trees per person per day. You can get an idea of the incredible amount of work, days work, of years of work that's required to do this. So there's no shortage of work for people in extreme poverty if the money comes through for them to plant trees and look after the trees. It's an incredible opportunity for people who are in poverty in so many of these countries. And bear in mind that something like 10% of the world's population is not just in poverty, is in extreme poverty. And what extreme poverty means is that people are living, according to the World Bank, people are living on less than $2.15 a day. So in the West, if you go out to the high street to buy a good size, reasonable size, not a big cup of coffee, a reasonable size cup of coffee, not from a premium store, from an ordinary store, then that cup of coffee is probably going to cost you around $4.30. So basically, that's what two people in impoverished countries are living on.
Oh, we've just lost Charles there again. So Maureen, whilst our lovely Charles comes back talking about this wonderful thing, maybe we should ask Maureen for the one final message there. Oh, Charles, are you back again? You froze for a bit there.
Okay, sorry, just saying that if people are able to make a donation to plant trees, then around 70% of that money goes actually directly to people in extreme poverty who are doing the work of planting trees. Back over to you, Honey.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, I just also wanted to just share the 7 areas of focus that we talked about in Rotary, because there are 6 areas of focus, which are other ones, which is peace and conflict resolution and prevention. We also have disease prevention and treatment. There is water and sanitation, which is, of course, the basic needs that people would need. We also have the 4th area of focus, which is maternal and child health. There is also the 5th one, which is basic education and literacy. And finally, it's also about economic and community development. And the 7th area of focus is the environment, of course. So what I'd like to just share with everyone is, when you come and support some of these projects, really, it's all the other areas are also being touched upon and also supported. And I think this is really great. We have double impact or triple impact, or sometimes even quadruple impact in different areas of what we are trying to do in this world. So thank you to all the my fellow Rotarians, for the work that they're also doing, saving our planet as well. to have organizations and charities like Saving Our Planet, who are really out there, leaders in the field, trying to create a maximum change. And people like Marine, who are really, really important. There are little gems in our society who are really working hard to bring these important issues to the forefront. So, Marine, any final message to the audience now while we have our last 2-3 minutes? Oh, sorry, you're on mute. Can you tell us a little bit about what would there be a message about? Actually, before we say that, what does COP28 stand for? Because there are people out there who don't even know what COP28 is and the Paris Agreement is. Can you just share with the audience a little bit about what COP28 is, how it came about, and what is the Paris Agreement, please?
Sure. COP20 stands for Convention of Parties. Parties is just another name for countries. There is like 197 countries joining at the COP. And basically, this is happening every year. And COP28 means it's the 88th COP. And this is organized by the United Nations. And basically, they are saying climate change is a big problem. It's going to impact the poor people. It's going to impact agriculture. It's going to impact coastal cities. It's going to impact the people who live near deserts. It's going to impact all of the world. And the United Nations says we have to do something about this. So every country in the world agreed to meet every year to talk about this issue and to try and find solutions.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. What a lovely way to explain that. Thank you so much for that. And what is the Paris Agreement?
Yeah, the Paris Agreement was so every year when they meet, all the countries meet, they try to end up with agreements and international laws on what to do. And basically, the Paris Agreement was agreed upon on COP21, COP21, yes. And basically, it's the first time there is a precise target inside the document. And the target is 1.5 degree for the whole world. And scientists have already estimated the impact of 1.5 degrees, and it's quite big. There is already big impact. At 1.5 degrees, there is no more coral reefs. There is the water coming up, I don't know how many meters, but quite a lot.
I think it was 26 feet up it would, if we start melting this way, if the glaciers melt in this way.
Yeah, exactly. So 1.5 is the objective, but there is already quite some impacts at 1.5. And today we are not on the trajectory to 1.5. We are more on like between 3 and 4. So there is a lot of efforts to do to protect like a correct livelihood for humankind.
That is brilliant. That is really important, actually. My final, message from my side before I ask Charles to also share his is the fact that it breaks my heart to see these beautiful polar bears and lovely animals, wildlife, who do not have their own habitat where they used to live. For example, all the glaciers are melting, and they are struggling to find places where they could live, where they can breed, they can have, where the cubs can play. So there are, it's this a whole family of the polar bears, for example, do not have a home anymore because all the glaciers are just melting. And they're struggling to find places. I also noticed that walruses and seals and, animals within the oceans, as they go out there looking for places to stay, they've got like little pieces of ice now, like a little island of ice where they all jump in to try to live somewhere because there's not enough space for them. And the other final thing I would like to say is with all the trees being cut down, all the new villages, all being rebuilt, let's say, all cities and communities being built whilst all the nature is being removed. All these lovely habitats like monkeys and little wildlife and squirrels and foxes and all sorts of things, like simple things that we talk about, they're all coming out into the living with communities and getting killed and fighting and trying to look for food because it's survival now. We have to think about what is happening in the world if you can really have the compassion. So I think each one of us needs to also build our own compassion within us to think about others and other beings in the world. That's my message to the world today. So with that, Charles, I would like to, of course, close. Is there any final points that you would like to share with the audience?
Thank you, Hani. Yeah, just to summarize the discussion today, first of all, I think you've made a really important point that it's not just marginalized people who are losing their homes and livelihoods because of climate. It's also animals, birds. They're losing their habitat, their homes, their livelihoods in the way that you've discussed. And their only representation at COP28 is through voices like ourselves and others. So this is so critically important. In terms of today, just to summarize, I think we need to summarize. First of all, I think we need to say that I'm very concerned about the lack of progress towards the central goal, which is keeping 1.5 degrees within reach. Marion has just given us some figures, some frightening figures, that we're on track for between 3 and 3.4 degrees of global warming, which is massively destructive. I mean, this is just unbelievable. We have to make progress on this. So in terms of what Marion talked about, he talked about first of all, talked about carbon pricing. This is such an obvious thing, to push up the price of coal, gas, and oil so that it costs more. So people move to look to other things. They look to alternative ways of doing things. It's just the same way as if your favorite item in the supermarket goes up crazily in price, which it has done in the UK over the last few months. You look for an alternative and you accept the alternative, which is lower cost instead. Secondly, Marion's talked about climate income, which is this amazing way of implementing carbon pricing in such a way that the income is actually distributed to people in the country. And as Marion has said, if you're a low fossil fuel user, you can actually make a profit on this. You can make more money through climate income than you spend on your fossil fuels. Perfect, absolutely amazing. We talked about a solution implementing, which everybody can join in at, which is planting trees. We talked about the need for planting trees, and through Rotary, you can donate to plant trees. It's 6 trees for £1, whatever currency you're in. You can get the tax breaks on this. It's so important for people to do this. And picking up on what people have also talked about, Marion made the point, do what you love. So really, let's all join in, invite everyone to join in. Do what they want to do what you want to do, what makes a difference, what you can see around you that's going to make a difference. And if you're not sure what to do, join someone else's project. Okay, join Rotary with Honey, join Marion with Citizens Climate Lobby, whatever country you're in. Help us saving our planet with planting trees. Join another organization that you see is in alignment with your passion and doing good. So please join in. Please do something. It's so important. Back over to Honey. Thank you so much. Thank you, Marion, for joining us.
I always really look forward to Charles' wonderful summaries at the end. I really do. And what wonderful little highlighted points that you've mentioned. Thank you so much, Charles. Of course, I'd like to say a very big thank you to Marine Chavuret. I'm going to still try here. But Marine, thank you very much for joining us today. You have been an incredible contributor to today's program, and you really have shared some really important messages with the world. Myself, Hani Kalaria here, I'm a district chair for the Environment Committee for Rotary, and I'd love to talk a little bit more and collaborate more about with others in the field of environment. And just wanted to thank all the contributors for the past few programs that we had. We've already got a few programs that we're starting to work on. For example, we have one project that we discussed from LEAP, which is the Lancashire Environment Action Project. And they run environmental climate action types of programs for free. And they try to educate the public about the climate. So we're looking to perhaps collaborate with the organization as a Rotary. Rotary has 1.4 million members. So perhaps we could start off by bringing this training program to our Rotarians. But if you're an organization out there who is looking to perhaps bring this information across to your organization, do contact us and we will put you in touch with such organizations. This particular program has been brought to you by Saving Our Planet and Rotary, of course, and it's been supported by Healing Our Earth, International Association of Human Values, and No CO2 as well. So thank you for that. So for today, we are going to bid you goodbye and thank you for joining us today. Do join us at the same time, at the same place tomorrow, 12 to 1 UK time, 4 to 5 Dubai time. And tomorrow we will, I'm sure, have Stefan on board, who's also part of Saving Our Earth, giving us an insight into what COP28 is doing right now. And we're going to get a sneak preview in the actual COP28 events. So thank you very much and goodbye to everyone for today.
Thank you, everyone. Goodbye, honey. Thank you. Thank you, Mary.